let's talk about this season. Pros and cons list, boy. And everybody can add to it. I've got mine on here. Whatever jumps out to you, let's put it together and put it on balance. Was this season a failure? I will say this. I will say unequivocally yes, right, as a whole. I don't think, and I'm not going to tell any of you that you shouldn't think it's a failure, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to be excited about or no positive building blocks as well, even through all the frustration. But let's start with the bad. On my cons list for the 22-23 season, Jake, obviously to me it starts with the injury drama. Both like the actual injuries and the drama surrounding the injuries, right? The actual injuries in that you barely had your best players, your two all-stars, in Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. To make matters worse, you barely had your sinew, right? Your bones, your kind of your glue guys, and guys like Jose Alvarado mainly, Larry Nance for extended portions of the time. It just felt like whatever, injuries classic, right? It just a bad, awful year for injuries, especially with your superstars, though. The drama surrounding the injuries, though, as well was awful. Whether it was the rumors swirling around Brandon Ingram not feeling right and not returning from a toe bruise for an extended period of time as the Pelicans were just completely falling apart and desperately needing some sort of help, and he was just nowhere to be found. Now, he eventually came back. He worked through it. He was great down the stretch. He's the reason why you even made something out of this season. And then, obviously, just all the Zion stuff is just out of control. And especially in light of just the last 3 days news cycle where everybody, got David Griffin saying he's healthy but didn't want to play, and then Zion saying he's healthy but didn't want to play. It's just absolutely awful. Other bad things for the year. And if you want to add on to any of these points or feel like I'm missing a point, just jump in.
I mean, I think that I think that this season was a disappointment.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, I think at the beginning of the conversation, unequivocally a failure. I'm not defending that. I'm just trying to look at, okay, what are the pros or what are the cons and what are the pros?
Yeah, I mean, last year you made it past the point with this same group because, again, surprise, surprise, you didn't have Zion. And you made – now, obviously, Larry Nance and Jose, to your point, like that obviously affects it. But even if they're able to get into a playoff series, I'm not sure that we would have seen the same things that we saw against the Suns a year ago. So, yeah, I think it is disappointing. The winning record, and if you want to try to make yourself feel better about it, it didn't fall off a cliff. But, just because you didn't take 7 steps back doesn't mean it can't be disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. So the injury drama and everything, just injuries in general, awful. Certainly being so good in the beginning and becoming so god-awful in the middle was just a horrible fan experience. We talk about this all the time, right? And actually rings very true today, Jake, because when you look at the record, like what determines a fan base's happiness, this is a sports core foundational rule, is not the objective numbers themselves. It's where do those numbers fall in relation to expectation. If I tell you before the year, Jake, you're going 42-40, I'm not going to say anything about the playoff. If I tell you before the year you're going 42-40, you take it. But when you are first in the West, and even in January, when you are third in the West and a game out of first, and you look like you're potentially going to be a top 4 team, well, then 42-40 feels awful. And a 10-game losing streak in the middle of the season. I mean, even if you had managed to stay bad, you would have made it, right? Like you had to get god-awful to erase the greatness of the beginning of the season. And it's the inverse of last year, where you started god-awful and got good. That felt incredible because your expectations were shattered and bottomed out and you far exceeded them. You allowed your expectation to rise and then you crashed and burned. Felt like misery. I mean, the middle of the season felt like I'd crashed my car in a snow ditch and then Kathy Bates had tied me up and snapped my ankles with a wooden block and a mallet. Just a horrible feeling. Other cons from the year. It feels like you have little to no shooting in a day and age when shooting is all that matters. Now, you look at the stats, you're not the bottom of the league. I mean, you're average, you're around the middle in terms of percentage. I think you're like 22 or 21 in terms of makes a game. But I don't know. It's like maybe last place, like 10.1. I think you're at like 10.6 threes attempted or something per game. You're not great. You're near the bottom. You're in the bottom tier. I'd say the bottom third, certainly, of the league. But it feels worse than that. And it's because if you look at the rest of the bottom third of the league, those are all really bad teams who aren't actually fighting for playoff spots. So when you are trying to judge yourself against your peers who you want to be, you just feel helpless.
Yeah, one of the things to kind of go back to, if we're talking about the middle portion of the season, is the moves you didn't make at the trade deadline, knowing how much capital you have to be able to go out there and bring in a player. And no disrespect to Josh Richardson, but he ain't it.
Oh, I'm irrationally angry at Josh Richardson. He doesn't deserve how much negative feeling I have towards him.
Yeah, well, it was a bad flagrant one last night.
That flagrant was inexcusable.
Yeah, there was no purpose, no reason for it.
You're letting freaking Twilight Cullen get in your head.
I liked your Outer Banks better.
I stole both. Dev said Twilight, and a response on the Twitter thread said Outer Banks.
That's okay.
So I'm in seeing both. Either way.
But you have all these
You can't
draft
let
picks.
Pretty Boy, you're a vet. You cannot let
Right. No.
18-year-old Pretty Boy Getty, who's dropping a triple-double and his nuts on your face, you can't let that guy get in your head.
Yeah, you're making $12.2 million this year.
What?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, that's why. Tell me.
Irrationally
Tell me about
angry.
it. Yeah. And that's who you brought in. You have all these first-round picks, all the potential to move all these, whatever you want. Okay, and you didn't make a move. You felt like, okay, no, we're good. And some of that could have been because they truly like, Zion's got a hammy. He's going to be fine. He'll be back.
Yeah.
You know, some of that
True.
probably came into their thought process.
It's like that
but they
Zion
didn't.
clip where he's like, February? Oh, wow.
Did y'all hear what CJ said after the game?
No.
Y'all want to hear it right now?
Yes.
It's pretty crazy. Okay.
Great producing here, Jacob. I'm proud of you. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think throughout my career, I've always been the type of player to do whatever it takes to help the team. I could have took the easy way out and got surgery and sat and watched, but I'm not that type of person, I'm not that type of player. Even though it affected my performance, some nights I never made excuses. I just go compete and do the best that I can, and I always try to lead by example.
Okay, that is a beautiful clip. I mean, obviously, right, he is offering commentary on what he views as the Gen Z of the league, right? The younger generation who are like, we're at 99%, but we got to be at 100 before we're going to come back. And also, Jake, again, we said it earlier, like, I'm upset with CJ that he wanted to take that shot late, but I don't want to go too hard on him because he's doing the thing that we have been begging these others to do. Be willing to put yourself out there, to be vulnerable because you're not 100%, be judged, but you're still trying to do everything you can to help the team win. So, like,
he said he needed surgery 3 months ago.
Yeah, no, he did. That is a known fact. He's going to have surgery as soon as the season ends. Like, he deserves credit for that. And as an athlete, I've gone through that where because nobody really cares that you're hurt.
No.
Right? And so all you're seeing is like, oh my God, he sucks. And you're like, well, dude, I'm out here like playing one-legged against 300-pound defensive line. Like CJ's like, I mean, I'm out here, I'm old, and I'm playing trying to fight for a playoff run, trying to do what all these young cats won't. And everybody's just talking about how bad I suck.
Yeah, the criticism I would have there is you have to realize that you can't do the things that you've always been able to do.
That's right.
And you've got to kind of delegate those shots to someone else.
Yeah.
That would be my one criticism because, T. Wolf's game, like he had 2 different looks and had 2 free throws and missed them. And you have to realize, man, I can still be somebody that helps this team and I can maybe create or maybe I can, get a defender to flash to me and I can pass whatever that might be. But at that point, it's like, I can't do what I've always been able to do because I'm not myself right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's not to say that he should be free of critique, but I just want to be
right. No, I like that answer.
Painfully emphasize that at least he's playing hurt. And so you can be mad at him, but you also have to give him credit where credit is due.
Next year, you're going to have 3 players next year that are making over $30 million. CJ's going to be making 35.8. B.I. is going to be making 33.8, and then this is going to be the first year that Zion's max deal kicks in, 33.5.
I mean, look, I think that Ingram's obviously worth it. You can't say Zion's worth it because he doesn't play. I know that CJ at that number feels bad right now, right? But look, in that god-awful portion of the season, the only reason you ever scraped together any wins was CJ. Putting it out there for the team. I do think that the end of this year is not wholly indicative of who he will be and can be if he's not dealing with a broken hand that needs surgery. I also think that one of the great values of CJ is intangible. It is in leadership. It's teaching Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, how to become these everyday pros, right? It's having comments like that and kind of by extension trying to show Zion, hey man, look, this is what it takes. This is the way. So it's not ideal, but I don't think the number for CJ there feels as bad as maybe, or is as bad as maybe it feels. Other cons from the season. Some of the ways that you lost games down the stretch were awful. Blowing the huge lead in the uber important game against Golden State, blowing against the T-Wolves where you would have been an 8 seed and would have had an opportunity to lose a game and still make the playoffs, and then blowing it against the Thunder last night. And while you won some big games, it did feel like at the peak, right? When you really got to the tipping point games, you just never found a way to win the biggest opportunities. Other things, I think it really hurts to watch these other franchises just blow by you. The Sacramento Kings left you in the dust, didn't think twice about you. The Oklahoma City Thunder continue to trade away every superstar they ever have. They're all 19 years old.
They have 15 first rounders in the next 5 drafts. I think.
It's
15 in the next 5.
Sam Presti's a god. If you want to know how to run a small market team, David Griffin, Trajan Langdon, go talk to Sam Presti. You've had 2 first overall picks and done nothing with it. Well, that's not fair. The franchise has. Griffin and them obviously have only been Zion there. And then the Lakers even, right? Lakers were awful. They make shrewd moves at the deadline. All of a sudden, they have the best record in the West post-trade deadline.
At this point, the T-Wolves.
T-Wolves blew by. So exactly. So
the T-Wolves traded some of their best players, and almost you're like, are they giving up? And they actually got better.
Yeah.
And the Lakers got better from receiving those players.
Yeah. It's so that was an awful feeling part of this season. And then certainly last night losing to a rebuilding team, the youngest in the league, while Lou Dort drops 27 and Josh Giddey gets you 30-point triple-double was awful. Anything else to add on the bad before we get to the good?
So next year, I mentioned that those contracts are going to be over $30 million. They're going to have some decisions to make. Jackson Hayes, he's going to be somebody that's going to be potentially making $9.1 million. And Jackson Hayes, he's a very interesting player because like sometimes he doesn't play coach's decision, and sometimes they roll him out there for 27 minutes. And, obviously with Larry Nance, he was going to get some run there. But he's a player that you truly don't feel like they have belief in because they don't put him out there consistently. And I know he's kind of got a wildness to his game, but even in the NBA, like $9.1 million per season is something because when you look at your overall number right now, and this is without, I guess the only contract that would be coming off is Josh Richardson because he was obviously on his last year of a deal. So you take that $12 million off, and you're $4 million under what you were this year, even with Zion's increase. But still, like that could be somebody that you need to pay attention to. Maybe they could package him together with some of those picks that they have, because if I'm not mistaken, they're still going to have a chance at the lottery. Now they have the worst odds of getting the number 1 pick, but they're still going to get a decent draft choice. And I don't know where that draft choice would fall on this roster right now. I mean, you look at the first-round pick, Dyson Daniels, kind of the same thing as Jackson Hayes, like some ups, some downs, and
what happened?
Left you scratching your head a little bit. Yeah, as far as his playing time. Kyra Lewis is another former first-rounder coming off an injury. Like, what's the plan there? So you have –
Dyson Daniels is hurt, right? Is he still hurt, right? Am I crazy, Jacob?
I don't know for sure.
Because that's what arrested. He had great momentum at the beginning of the year, and the injuries, of course, are what did him in. I wonder if that's why he's still not playing. Sorry, Jake. I'd forgotten about Dyson. But, yeah, I would actually put Dyson in the positive category.
He was a DNP, actually. Coach's decision.
Well, still, Daniels is someone who had more high moments.
He played against the Knicks.
Yeah, he was a coach's decision for that game.
He had more high moments over this year than I feel like your NBA rookie normally has.
Yeah, he did. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get any minutes.
So I would put that in the positive category going forward. I don't know about Kyra Lewis, though, to your point, Jake. I don't know. He got minutes last night for a little bit there. He missed that layup, though, where you saw the speed.
He was bad. He did, but he was pretty reckless in his minutes. So my point is you have, all these former first-round picks that you have, and I don't really know the plan for them. I don't know Jackson Hayes. I don't know Dyson Daniels. I certainly don't know Kyrie Lewis, and that's 3 guys that are lottery picks. So I don't know what you do with those 3 lottery picks. And then again, you got another lottery pick coming up this year. At what point do you try to do something with all of those assets?
Yeah, you probably try to package them or something.
Because you need shooting so badly. Like, even if you go get a sharpshooter, somebody that was a second-round pick and they don't have a lot to their game, but one thing they can do is put the ball in the bottom of the basket, you might have to say, you know what? We're not going to be prideful here. One of these former first-round picks, maybe we move a guy like that, give him another opportunity, and bring in a shooter. Yeah, but you know how it is, though. GMs in every sport. This is not just Trajan Langdon. Do they care
as much in basketball, though? And because I feel like Trajan Langdon,
sport they do.
I feel like Trajan Langdon's actually done an awesome job drafting.
It's not that he's done a bad job.
Trey are great. Dyson's great.
That's three players right there, though.
I feel like you rarely hit on 3, though. I'm saying, like, I feel
I don't know if you'd say he'd hit on Jackson Hayes.
No. I'm talking about Herb, Trey.
No,
and
this isn't a conversation of they've drafted poorly, but that's 3 former first-round picks. And I take Daniels out of it. That's 2. Okay, Jackson Hayes and Kyrie Lewis. Certainly Kyrie Lewis, because I don't know where he plays right now.
Yeah.
You have all these point guards. Jose's clearly passed him up as well. You gave Jose a new deal.
Yeah.
Like, why just have that person sit on the end of the bench and not play because of coach's decision?
That's true. That's fair. Champ is saying, Jake, the deepest team in the NBA is what was said on this program. Deep teams don't have injury issues. You had dudes that looked okay in the first month of the season. I mean, I just vehemently disagree. Like here is the part about the injuries. Is it frustrating? Yes. Is it an excuse? No, we know it's not an excuse. But, like, also, are we just going to be so obstinate that we're going to act like if you take the 2 best players off the team for the majority of the year that it's not going to kill you? And then on top of that, you take away the depth because you take away a Jose and Larry and CJ's playing hurt and what Dyson Daniels hurt for large parts. Like, what are we talking about? Like, you can be deep and still get screwed over by injuries. Look at any sport, take the 2 best players off, and tell me what your team looks like after that. Nobody's gonna do it. It's just
I mean, the bench at that point when we were talking about it, and like I said, that bench was Trey, Jose,
exactly,
and Nance.
Exactly.
Like those were and Najee Marshall.
Second liners. Yeah.
I mean, so that bench looked complete. You didn't have 3 of those guys because Trey had to move into a starting role. Jose didn't play. Nance didn't play in that game last night.
Yeah. So
it looks completely different.
Exactly. You're being disingenuous there, I believe, Champ. All right, so that was a negative. Coming up next, and this will be our final Pell segment before we start talking everything else. Coming up next, though, let's talk about the positives. So I do think there are positives here, okay? We're going to end with a little glass half full. Despite your, Cam, I don't want to be mad and stay on my feet. It's okay. Okay, we're going to see if I can make you a little excited. Probably not. More off the bench coming up next. So we're going to get to positives. All right.
Said you were going to get the positives.
Yeah. Why not? Why wouldn't we? Dude, there are positives, okay? And we'll start here. Bottom line, I'm not telling you the season was a failure, like I said, but this is a positive. Bottom line, you had a winning regular season, and you did it with your superstars barely playing and all the injury stuff we just talked about, 42-40. Jake, you want to know how rare this is for the Pelicans? This is their first winning season in 5 years.
I know.
It's the second time in 8 years. It's the third time in 13 years. It doesn't happen. I know this sucks, but you do not finish above 500. You're awful. You just don't do it. And so the fact that you did with all of your players not playing was, pretty good. Like I said, like the pain and adjusted expectations due to the great start is going to make this hard to accept, but in terms of regular season record, it is the best season you've had in half a decade. That is factual. Other positives, Brandon Ingram in the final stretch. That looked like a guy capable of leading the franchise. Once he kind of found himself, when the Pelicans became the hottest team in the NBA, yes, competition was a bit easier, but so much of it was Brandon Ingram dominating. I mean, pulling 2 triple-doubles out of nowhere, which he'd never done in his career before. I love the way he was constantly demanding the ball in the fourth quarter down the stretch, Jake, and continuing to hit these insane, crucial fourth quarter shots. And so I love seeing him take over. Right after that, in terms of things to feel great about, how could you not feel great? about the continued growth and emergence of Trey Murphy and Herb Jones in year number 2. Like, if you want to talk about real foundational building blocks for the future, these two should get you extremely excited. I mean, Trey Murphy is a bona fide all-star type of potential. I would say Herb Jones is a potential all-star as well, but, like, maybe it's more of an all-defensive team, obviously, because I don't know. Like, he got much better offensively, which is why he's becoming very exciting.
Did he take a step back defensively?
I think that for much of the year, yes, right? I think he was still great. I mean, think about some of the blocks that he's had. Like, I think he got really hot. Both his entire game was struggling for a large portion of the season, and I feel like he closed really strong. But you know, second-year player, I kind of like that, right? Sophomore slump's a real thing. The refs, you know, you listened to the announcers last night, they were basically talking about how the entire year the refs been calling a bit differently, and he wasn't able to get away with some of the stuff that he was able to get away with last year. I like, if you're asking me, do I think Herb Jones remains an all-NBA defensive type player? Absolutely. I have no problem with that. So maybe his offense never becomes such that he'll be making like all-star games, but all-NBA, you know, that's just as good. And look, I do have trust that you look at those picks. I have trust, and you look at a guy like Dyson Daniels, who had, you know, very strong portions as well. I do actually trust Trajan Langdon in the drafting process and the front office when it comes to drafting. Other things to be excited about. I think that Willie Green is not perfect, but still has the potential to be great. Did he make mistakes? Yes. Were some of his rotations inexplicable to those who like follow this team obsessively at times? Yes. But at the same time, again, he went 36-46 in year 1 and 42-40 in year 2. And that's a 6-game improvement. You do that again, you're 48-34 next year, and you're a top 4 seed. So, like, be wary of falling into the trap with Monty Williams, where you let your anger and disappointment overcome, and you blow up something that was moving in the right direction. I feel like with another year and a bit more health luck, Willie Green will build off of this season and be better next year. I mean, he's a second-year head coach in the NBA. Of course he's going to go through some things where he's looking a little in over his head. He's figuring things out. That's the only way to figure these things out are by doing, right? And I think that Willie Green acquitted himself well with a strong finish and managing to once again overcome just a god-awful stretch and portion of the season. So, look, bona fide superstar in Ingram, 2 excellent building blocks in Murphy and Herb. I believe in the coach. And they numerically improved. Like, I think those are all positives to take away from this season.
So for me, it's just like everything that's good kind of comes with a little bit of bad, and I think you could have that conversation. I do think it's disappointing. We've talked about that already enough. The positives are hard to find for me because, like, players that you were really excited about a year ago, like, you either didn't get to see them to their full potential because they were injured, or maybe they did take it could be a small step back, but they did take a step back. I was looking for more growth in guys like Jackson Hayes that you weren't able to really see this year.
But I see. It's like I had no expectation for Hayes, though. I don't know.
But why? He's a lottery pick.
Yeah,
and you've seen enough flashes.
Maybe I'm wrong for this.
He should be more of a key piece to your team, even if it's a bench piece. There's so many games in a row where it's like he just didn't play.
No, I know, but I'm saying, but it's because you got Jonas, who's great. Jonas is, and he would be a positive. I would say Valanciunas.
Okay, but Valanciunas didn't take a shot in the third.
You got Larry. So. You got even Hernan Gomez. Like,
look. Obviously, there's a reason, but that's somebody that, like, you wonder. Okay, no minutes, like not at all. Man won MVP of the Euros. Yeah. Right, with some of the biggest stars in the NBA in that same tournament. So, for me, it's not like an epic failure, but it is disappointing, and I find it hard to find as many positives as you did.
Well, I mean, look, I don't, but do you disagree with any of the positives? Because what you're talking about is a different negative. Like, we can add that to the con list, but do you disagree with any of the positives? I mean, you can't argue with the record. No matter how bad the context of the record hurts, in 82 games, you were better than you were in 82 before. You weren't better in the play-in in the playoff, or you were better over 82. And it's the third time in 13 years. I cannot stress that enough. Like, third time you've had a winning record in 13 freaking years. Danny's like 20 years old. It's like the third time in Danny's life the Pelicans have been good. Jacob, how old are you?
26.
There you go. Half of Jacob's life, he's seen 3 winning seasons. And this was one of them. That's all I'm saying.
I do get that.
Oh, crap. We got to go. I just noticed a 48. I'm getting so fired up about the Pels. Okay, but do you disagree with any of the positives, though? Like, we can continue to add on the negatives. I'm down to do that as well. But do you think Willie Green's not as good as I'm saying?
No, I'm good with Willie. I think Langdon has drafted some really good players. My only criticism of him is don't hold on to some of these players that you're not going to play for no reason. Like, get something for them. Change up the back end of your roster, because I do think they have some value. I do think there's teams that Jackson Hayes could go to where he would be utilized more than you. And if he doesn't fit what you're trying to do, that's okay.
Yeah.
But just move him, get somebody else, and do some different things.